All right, so real quickly, I'll go ahead and give you anyone who has missed any of our earlier stints a rundown of what our first 5 stints have been like. Stint 1 was really intense fighting for about 4th on back, also a brief fight for 2nd, but really in the end, the big thing was HYR Skyline in the BMW absolutely dominated that stint, led all but 1 lap. Stint 2, we had 4 different leaders in the first 30 laps. HYR Bookie led the first lap, but then crashed near the end of lap 2, slipped well out of the top 10, ended up finishing a lap down. Then that gave the lead to Zula 808. In the Audi, ended up spending several laps out front, but then about a lap after he lost the lead, he would go off circuit, damage the engine, he would recover to a top 5 finish. Then it would go to FTC Sakura. Sakura would lead a good chunk of the race, keeping SFM Darkster behind, but then, with about 2 laps before they would have made their first stop, Sakura disconnected. That gave the lead to Darkster, and then Darkster did not look back to the end of it. So, then you look at Stint 3. Stint 3, once again, HYR Skyline and the BMW dominated, but unlike the first stint, they disconnected with about 20 minutes left. Buffalo and the IFEA machine, which had not even made the top 10 in Stint 1, didn't even finish Stint 2. He dragged that BMW of his all the way up to 2nd, but then had an engine damage in the last stint and slipped down to 4th. Letting one of the Lexuses through. Darkstar took home 2nd, but the end winner was LMP Bilbo in the BMW. We believe that is the car, this one here that Bilbo is in. We believe that is the car that is overall in the lead of all of the teams that are in Stint in the C lobby. In Stint 4, that was the peak. It was the pinnacle. There was fighting non-stop for a large chunk of the race. 2nd through 6th were all on top of each other on the same straightaway. For about half of the race, 1st through 4th were all on top of each other on the same straightaway. All different manufacturers, Acura, BMW, Bentley, Caddy, all really fighting it out aggressively. In the end, what ended up happening was Scored Buffalo took his BMW to a win. A great rebound by that team. 2nd place went to the Caddy of TVR, which that leads into Stint 5, the one we just ended. The TVR's Caddy, he got to the lead about 20 minutes into the race and walked off with it. BMW from the LMP team again came home 2nd. So again, that's why we think they're going to be overall Stint leader. Also, shout out to X3 Art. They were the one who was able to bring the car home to a podium finish when that has been a midfield car all day long. And now we set up for the final run here. TNR Obvious is finally jumping into the lobby. I believe they are the only one. Yeah, they're the only one we're waiting on. We have waited a long time on them. Good news is this stint is only going to be about 90 minutes. Cannot wait to get this underway. Somehow my voice has held up through these first 10 hours. I just hope it doesn't fall over and die in this final run here. Waiting for TNR Obvious to properly ready up, and then we should be able to get underway right away after that. This will be the final 90-minute stint here. About to finally close this thing down. We've not really kept up on overall distances. I apologize for that, but the distance updates have been really iffy, like they normally are. It's a TORA event. It's not really anything against TORA. It's just when you have to enter in 95 to 105 different teams' distances every 2 hours, it can very easily get messy. So I don't hold that against TORA. I have my issues with TORA. That is absolutely not one of them. I understand why that's a problem. I will never fault them for that problem. But I have been keeping track with the fights of all the C lobby teams and drivers against each other. Again, my anticipation, unless I am wrong, it is going to be this car, this driver, LMP Bilbo, who is at the front. Bilbo was 2nd, ended up inheriting the win once the HYR driver dropped out in Stint 2. We have had 5 different teams win the stints thus far. Will we have a repeat, or can we hit a magical trifecta of 6 different teams winning the 6 stints here today. What has happened? Oh, okay, so we're reloading. Okay. Don't know what's going on here. Won't worry about it. Once we get back to Kylami, I will just go back to spectate, which is all my job is. All right, here we are. Spectate. Driver list. Should have 20 drivers in total. 19 will be on track. 20 people, 19 drivers. I am not a driver, but I do take a position here. If my voice doesn't go out on me here in this mile stint, this will be the most proud I have ever been for myself. Obvious is having trouble loading in, I guess. Says he's loading in on my screen, but yeah. So some of these cars have paints, but most of them don't. That's funky. What says obvious is loaded now, and here we are, about to get underway. All right, getting ready to set the clock. Somehow, all 19 cars that started Stint 1 are still with us, still turning laps. Here, as we load into the final stint, although we did have to wait a long time on TNR Obvious, I believe it is. Three, two, one, and clock going. All right, time for me to start getting the lobby set. LMP Bilbo, who is going to be starting at front once again. 1 second, let me change this to the rail camera. This number 825 BMW LMP entry. They've only won a single stint, but overall they have minimized failures, minimized incidents, and they are looking like they could come home, at least not winning overall. I can't answer that, but it looks like they could come home with a victory compared to all of their other people here in VC lobby. But they still have to get through this. Bilbo, who was a very comfortable second and then ended up turning it into a win in Stint 3, is going to have to try and do that same again. Right behind them is going to be the Lexus Novelth N340. They have not run thus far today. They could be a big wild card for this final stint win. Then in third is AWR Richard. Richard made the first stint, did some pretty questionable driving. Doesn't see any issues against it though in this form. Did some questionable strategy, but still pulled out a decent run. While this car has not won a stint yet, they have been near the front most of the time. GGA Carrick is the last driver to run in the Cadillac. This car won the last stint. They are on the comeback. Then in fifth is X Valak. This car has had 2 podiums. He's also come home fourth, but is also now trying to outrun a penalty as well. In sixth, we have X3 Art Nico. They have gotten better and better as this has gone on. Then in 7th, you have ESR Eclectic in the LMP Aston Martin. This entry was farther up the grid earlier, but they've just not been able to maximize these results. This car has slipped to 7th. Just behind them is the Mercedes of ZR Amaryllis, the number 318. The only Mercedes in the field. Behind them, Les Zeta. When Zeta drove this car earlier, they did not even come home in the top 12. But maybe things will be a little bit different here. Behind them in 10th will be Scored Buffalo. Buffalo has a win and also a 4th. Maybe has a 12th and a 7th. NFL Racer was not able to finish the one stint they did. Buffalo doesn't have a chance to win overall, but might be able to steal another top 3 podium, another podium position here. SFM Darkster, 1, Stint 2, 2nd, and Stint 3. But will have to come from a long way back because his teammates just can't maximize this car like he's been able to. 12th will be P1R Arkina in the Acura number 157. 13th will be Nuke X 167. 14th will be RZR Rostud. We have not seen him. This car has led laps in all but one stint thus far. Be interested to see if they can at least try and make it 5 stints out of the 6. C1 Crazy in the number 697 Audi will be starting 15th, trying to recover from a big accident earlier. In WR Stevie in the 156 Audi. C1 Crazy in the 740. No. I'm sorry. Scarlatti in the 742 Porsche, the pink, white, and blue. They've gotten some slightly better results in stint 4 and 5. They'd love to finish this off well. Then you have Mr. Kirby. Accidents, disconnects early on. They've just not been very fast overall, but Kirby has found some speed, taking home a 5th place in the last stint, looking to end this event on a high note. And TNR Obvious is going to round out the back of the field. It has been a disastrous time for this FTC racing entry. They just want to have a good result. As you see, the field is now underway here. Oh my god, did Vlax just drop out before we even started? I think he did. Yeah, it looks like we did. Okay, we're gonna have to try again. So Vlax, yet before we really even got underway, didn't even make it through the first 3 corners, lags out. So we're gonna have a lobby restart. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully it won't take too long to get Black back in here. It seems like they're already back in the lobby, got their car reselected, so shouldn't be too long. I can feel my voice trying to give out on me. It's rough because I want this to be a really exciting final stint, but if this is too exciting, my voice will not make it to the end of this. I am slightly apprehensive about this. Also, real quickly, we want to go ahead and give a shout out to Bobby Allison's family. The NASCAR champion of 1983 has passed away earlier today, and our thoughts will be with Allison's widow and their extended family. All right, preparing to reset the clock again. Hopefully there won't be any disconnect this time. Three, two, one. All right, clock is underway once more. Let's get the broadcast session on my end set up once again. Ticker. All right, once again, we'll look at our LMP Bilbo, who we know is going to be starting at the head of the field in the number 825 LMP Esports entry. Likely in position, unless there's something bad happens, I think this car will win overall, despite only winning a single stint thus far. It will be the Lexus of Novell in 340, who will be third, then AWR Richard in third, then it will be GTA Carrick in the Caddy in fourth, X-Vlac will be fifth in the Denso Acura, sixth will be X3 Art Nico, seventh will go to ESR Eclectic once they pull up in line, there we go. 8th will be ZR Amaryllis in the Mercedes. 9th will be Les Zeta in the 827 Audi. 10th will be Scored Buffalo in the number 31 IFEA machine. 11th will be SFM Darkster in the number 24 Aston Martin. 12th will be P1R Arkina in the 157 Acura. 13th will be Nuke X1617 in the number 346 Audi. 14th will be RZR Rostuds, a car that has led laps in 4 of the 5 stints, number 32 there. 15th will go to C1 Crazy in the 697 Audi, the maroon machine. And WR Stevie is in the 156 Audi. 17th will be Scalarity in that pink, white, and blue, number 742. And then 18th should go to Mr. Kirby, trying to recover here. And 19th last will be TNR Obvious. So the entire field is lined up. We should be underway shortly here. Should get underway any moment. Field got lined up pretty nice and quickly. I appreciate that. Okay, well, I guess that's the first time I've ever heard the actual PA at this circuit talking about something. I didn't realize they had a fake PA advertisement for the fake oil sponsor in this event. So waiting on the field to start moving. It's not happened yet. Don't know what the weight is on. Something's happened to Scored Buffalo. He's all of a sudden blitzed out. I don't know what happened there. All right, field is now underway. Mind you, Buffalo should be in the 10th position, so he should be able to filter back into that spot without too much issue here. All right, as the field rounds the corners, get underway once more. Final time. Bilbo out front has only won a single stint, not on sheer pace, although pace helped put him in the right position. Buff capitalizing of others. The drivers behind. Lothel could be a wild card. Has not ran a stint yet. Richard's only done a single stint with a bad strategy. And they're off. Green flag. Bilbo gets away without too much issue here. The top three have a bit of a breakaway right at the start. Bilbo keeping his number 825 ahead of that Lexus, but the Lexus is keeping him very honest right away here. Some movement further back in the grid, but already there is a fight at the front. The Lexus is really putting Bilbo under pressure early on here. The driver that Bilbo was behind for most of that stint 3 is not in this run. We don't really know where Bilbo's actually performance is going to be. Oh my goodness, Nothel blows the corner, and now Richard has a run for second. And that is GGA correct there in fourth, but Richard dives to the inside of Nothel. Richard has done a stint earlier. We know they're fast, but they ran over. Oh! And the Lexus gets hooked by the Bentley. Has got to lose a bunch of positions in the process. And now here comes X3 Nico, picking up where they left off in the podium positions once again. This is great news for Bilbo, though. Bilbo is now starting to streak away from the field. Nothel and the Lexus has slipped to 5th position. X-Vlad running behind Nico, and there's a fight farther back. That is Eclectic and Amaryllis in a fight. Eclectic inside, Amaryllis outside. Heavy under braking. Nothing, but it looks like Zeta is trapped on the outside, scored Buffalo as though that duo goes side by side up the hill. Darkser is in 9th right now. Darkser lunges to the inside of Eclectic. Eclectic goes into the dirt just ahead. Those are the two Aston Martins, running about mid-pack in overall distance, but one has won a stint, one has not. Crazy has now dropped back to 16th. Everyone pretty much knows the tail bouncing off of each other. And Eclectic again drops tires in the dirt, and that BMW has scored Buffalo, loses the position to Zeta now. All right, here comes Darkser, shoots up on the inside. There is nothing that Eclectic can do to fight back. Darkser now moves into 8th. Of everyone who's won a stint prior, though, Bilbo is in first, slowly opening up the gap between himself and X3 Nico, who has ended up in 2nd. This is the strongest that this car has been all day today on merit. Absolutely incredible. I don't think anyone anticipated this. Richard dives into the dirt just a little bit. Vlak is there in 4th, where he finished in the last stint as well. So several drivers basically picking up where they left off in prior stints. Farther back down the order, most of the field is already single filing out a bit here. Everyone's trying to fall into line. GGA Correct and Amaryllis having a nice little fight. We don't really know what Correct can do in this Cadillac, but right now it's not looking great. Cadillac that came home 2nd and 3rd. Oh my goodness, he goes off, and he goes off with Amaryllis. He's actually going to overtake Amaryllis while both of them were off circuit, but they'll both lose a huge chunk of time. This moves Darkser up into 6th. And Buffalo gets back by Zeta. Not for long. Zeta, well, no, that was wrong. Zeta was never behind Buffalo there. Although now Buffalo's gotten to the inside, he'll fall back in line. The entire field pretty much single file there. It's 3 Nico runs in 2nd at the moment. What in the world? Carrick is really struggling coming to grips with this car early on here. Side by side farther back. Audi, Aston Martin, and they're all gonna miss the track, and that was an Acura. An Acura has lost the track. That's a Black. And that car, which has been 3rd in 2 stints, 4th in another, now drops out of the top 14, falls all the way back to 15th spot. Darkser now moves up in the 5th. And look at this. X3 Nico is showing some pace. He is trying to close down the gap between himself and Bilbo. This has been a midfield car in the first 4 stints of the day, but they came out swinging. Nico brought them a podium in stint 5, and now he's on track for another podium and might be able to run down Bilbo and could potentially, not saying it will happen, but could potentially be the 6th different team to win a stint here in the C lobbies. Had to have a little bit better lines than that, but still, The possibility is there. But right now, the Lexus of Nothel in 340, they started second, but slipped to fourth here early on. The top three have kind of opened up the gap. Scored Buffalo is up into sixth. Darkster is in fifth. Those two are drivers that have also won stints. You know that they have pace. No, Buffalo should be a little faster than Darkster also. But are they going to be fast enough to run down Bilbo? Mind you, Bilbo didn't dominate his stint, but he was very comfortably second. So if Nico can't catch Bilbo in the next few laps, this stint might already be decided pretty much. Here comes the move to the inside by Darkster. Nothel tries to pinch Darkster down. The Aston Martin has acceleration and will hold position. Nothel slips back to fifth. Scored Buffalo will be the next driver he'll have to deal with. Although Nothel is going to try and maybe get back by him. Trying, but does not have to dry it out to make that stick. So Darkster now up into fourth. This puts everyone in the top three on watch. Because Darkster now has clean track. Just needs to scoot away from Nothel a little bit as Buffalo now begins to close in. X3 Art Nico. C, Bilbo just a little bit up ahead. McLaren versus BMW. And third place is that Bentley. That Bentley is another entry that has not yet won any of these stints. Richard could also make it 6 different stint winners, or teams winning stints in C Lobby. Would be absolutely incredible if they can make it happen. Darkster starting to pull away from Nothel. Scored Buffalo is now on Nothel's rear end, trying to figure out a way past. The benefit, Buffalo was one of the fastest drivers in turning laps. The downside, though, is that he has to make all these overtakes, and because this car is so heavily set up for cornering, it's a lot harder for him to make these overtakes than you would think. He's on the outside of Nothel. Is he going to press the issue and try to get around the outside? No, he's going to try and cross over on corner exit. The Lexus will have a straight line speed advantage. The BMW is right there, though. He might try to go to the inside. No, he's going to fall in line through here. Might try to cross over on corner exit. Where Lexus left him all the room he wanted, and that's what Scored wants to see. Scored now moves up into fifth. So again, podium finishers need to be put on note. Prior stint winners are in fourth and fifth now. Nico runs second, trying to close down on Bilbo. Richard is in third, but does not seem to be able to keep up with our top two at the moment. And then Darkster is closing. Darkster seems to be slightly faster than our top three, and same with Scored. But Bilbo may not need to win this stint in order to get this team to the best result in overall distance of everyone in the C Lobby. I can't, and I'm not going to try and say where they're going to end up in relation to A and B Lobby teams, but against C Lobby, I think Bilbo has a big enough advantage over the rest of the field. I think this BMW has finished top 10 in all but one stint thus far. Nico is not letting him get away easily. McLaren is most definitely closing on the BMW, but we've seen this in the last several stints. Catching is one thing. Making the overstake stick, that is a whole nother. Look at this mess here. Nuke runs behind Zeta, and you can see the field all kind of packed up behind. Scolarity and C1 Crazy at the back of the field right now. Tires going into the dirt. There's so much dirt being kicked up there. There's going to be permanent grooves on the exit of turn 2 there. Scored Buffalo is actually closing in on Darkster just a bit. Once again, we look at the head of the field. Nico is slowly chipping the gap away between himself and Bilbo. A top 3 run in Stint 5 might have a potential win coming in the final stint. But he needs to catch Bilbo and then get by him. Bilbo is not streaking away. For Bilbo, he doesn't need to win this stint. He just needs to be up near the front so he can guarantee it. But you're going for overall distance and you're not trying to just be ahead of everyone in your lobby. If you're going for overall distance, winning a good top 5 or top 10 finish overall, Bilbo needs to make sure that Nico stays behind him and is not in a position to ever pressure him. Richard is still there in third. Darkster and Buffalo are a long way back. I'm positive they're faster, but it may take them a long time to actually close in. Two of them are kind of in their own zone right now. Their zone is closing on the top 3, slowly but surely. Not a great run out of the final corner that time for Nico. Take a look at this fight for 4th and 5th. Scored Buffalo runs right behind Darkster. It is a BMW versus Aston Martin fight. These two fought for a prolonged period of time in Stint 3. Buffalo actually got ahead of Darkster, but then a misshift caused engine damage. He could not keep Darkster behind. He slipped back to 4th while Darkster came home 2nd instead. Drops tires into the dirt there. Rostuds and Nuke are having a bit of a fight there for the 9th and 10th positions, apparently. Side by side, Rostuds will have the inside going into turn 4. This is the car that won the first stint. The driver, though, but the car. Nuke falls in line behind. The Audi can't really do anything to fight back. Now open to attack from Kirby behind. To the inside, up the hill. No, it'll go to the outside, actually. Has a bold move, and he's going to go off. And Nuke with a bold move to the outside. It was a bold strategy, but it did not pay out. Nuke will slip back to the 12th position. Might even lose that to the Cadillac here of TGA Carrot. Seems like only TVR has really been able to make that Cadillac work. While they are fighting, Buffalo and Darkster are closing on the top 3, slowly but surely. Now, Nico seems to have stopped being able to close on Bilbo for now. Does Buffalo get aggressive? Does he try to get by Darkster early? Yeah. Well, he's definitely trying to make Darkster think he is. He made a move to the inside, but did not commit to it. Fell back in line. Darkster did not fall for it, but Darkster hits that curb real bad. That's going to upset him in these corners. Buffalo stays right behind. Now he slides the tire off, though. Nothel really struggling here. This Lexus is just not able to perform. Had a few good stints in the mid part, but at the early on and late on, just cannot seem to make anything happen here. This is 2nd overall. As long as this Lexus is struggling, Bilbo could potentially afford to give up some time. Again, that's assuming he's only trying to fight against overall distance victory against C-Lobby drivers. If he's going for overall results, he's going to want to stay ahead without any issues. I'm pretty confident that the win is out of contention for him. But, top 5, top 10 probably could be in contention. I think there's only going to be about 19-20 cars in both of the higher 2 lobbies. Darkster spends a long time in the dirt there. Buffalo still runs behind. They can see third place A.W. Richard up ahead, and the Bentley, mind you, the Bentley is another acceleration car, initial acceleration car. Top 5 are absolutely in a zone of their own right now. And of the 5 of them, I think AWR Richard is the slowest. He is having the most trouble keeping up with the top 2. And Darkster and Buffalo are rapidly enclosing on their position. We're not quite to the point where the top 5 are all sharing same short straightaways yet, but we're getting there because Darkster and Buffalo are absolutely open a can of whoop my ass. Oh, and Buffalo drops into the dirt. We'll still be able to use the draft to stay in touch with Darkster for the moment, though. Again, we look at second. Nico gets close, then makes a mistake, drops off a bit, then he starts getting close to Bilbo. Right now, he's in a position where he's close to Bilbo once more. Needs to minimize mistakes and go for it. We're not at the end of our first fuel and tire run yet, but we're starting to get there. Could there be a tire advantage that the McLaren has? I don't know if Nico's going to be able to catch him. I think he's faster, but I don't know if he can put together enough fast laps to actually catch Bilbo. He needs Bilbo to make a mistake, and when Bilbo won in Stint 3, well, Stint 2, Stint 3, he didn't really make any mistakes. He just kind of chilled. So Nico might be faster, but if Nico can't set out all these faster laps perfectly in order, he's not going to get by Bilbo. And again, it's one thing to catch him. Just catching him might be a bit of a struggle. Overtaking him is going to be a different issue altogether. Darkster is now close. Well, no, I'm not going to say that yet. I do think Richard is still closer to Nico than Darkster is to Richard. Most important thing, I think, Bilbo has not really been under any pressure through most of these stints, through the other stint he was in. Nico trying to run him down. This would be the first time that Bilbo's really had to contend with someone behind, running them down. Mind you, while Darkster and Buffalo were behind him in Stint 3, they spent so much time trying to make their way through the field and through traffic that Bilbo never was really under serious threat of being caught by them. They're a lot closer, though, in this stint. That might be an issue for Bilbo. And Nico is a little closer this time. Meanwhile, Nofel in 340 has slipped back to 10th. Lexus is just not performing. Had some good stints in the middle part of this event, but the first stint was not great, and the last stint that we just did was not great. It doesn't look like this stint is going to be great either. They are just about positioned to drop out of the top 10 here. As Nuke X1617 on the inside, and that's NWRCV just a little bit behind, ready to try and capitalize as well. Nothel just slowly hemorrhaging time. At the front, Nico has basically caught Bilbo. The fight is on. No, almost. It's not going to be on if he goes off in the dirt like that, but it's close enough. He can absolutely put pressure on Bilbo now. Bilbo's not really had to deal with pressure. Nico in position to try and fight for race win. He needs to get by Bilbo, then get away from Bilbo, and open up enough of a gap. That way Darkster and Scored can't get by him later. Sideways moment there. It sounds to me like Bilbo is hitting that curb a lot more aggressively. As long as it's not upsetting his handling, that should be okay. Nico is closer again, though. And now I will say with confidence that Richard is closer to Darkser than Richard is to Nico. So the top two are in a zone of their own, third place, about to slip into the grasps of fourth and fifth. And this could be problematic for Scored and Darkser, because if either of them get held up by Richard, it could let the other get position and scoot away here. So we'll keep an eye on that. But really, our focus is on the lead. Bilbo has led since the start of this run. Nofel is the closest contender he has amongst all of the teams in this lobby, but Nofel is just not performing here in this final stint, has dropped out of the top 10, while Bilbo had opened up a small lead early on. And most of his advantage when Nico is gone, but still, the gap between Bilbo and Nofel is absolutely massive. Nofel is that blue dot in that big pack in the middle of the field that you see on the map. Bilbo is just a little bit ahead of that number 2 you see on the map. RZR Ross studs as well. That TNR entry, I think it was TNR, HYR, it is. The HYR entry is starting to recover. This is the strongest that car has looked since Stint 3. Nico runs right behind Bilbo here. He's absolutely in the BMW's draft through these corners. So he's caught him. Can he pass him? Big sideways zone for Bilbo there. Well, big by his standards, not really big compared to some of the other stuff we've seen. Scalarity was absolutely throwing some incredible runs in the prior stint through those corners. Oh my goodness, he is there! Could this be it? Nico's in the draft of the BMW! Does he make the move here? How does Bilbo defend? Will he even try to defend? Nico looks to the inside! Heavy under braking, Nico lunges! Bilbo still has the nose ahead. They're both gonna go a little wide in one. Nico's got the car ahead, but is not totally ahead. Nico fights back in 2, now into turn 3. He's got the position! And now Nico goes to the lead. Took not quite the entirety of the first fuel and tire run, but it's 3-art Nico in a car that had been midfield for the first 4 stints. Now, he took it to a 3rd place in stint 5, and now is leading in the final stint. Could be the 6th different team to win a stint in the C lobby, but now he has to put all his marks together clean and start walking away from Bilbo. And a little bit more importantly, open up enough of a gap that Darkser and Scored Buffalo can't run him down by the end of this. Bilbo misses the apex just a little bit. For the moment, he is keeping the McLaren honest. Richard hasn't yet been caught by Darkser and Scored. That will likely happen in the next 2 laps. Honestly, maybe the next lap and a half, but I think it will be 2 laps. Nico drops tires in the dirt. All right, so Crazy and Les Zeta have both had instances that have forced them to pit. Either they pitted incredibly early or they took damage or something, but they have already made stops. Bell and Stevie really fighting it out back there for the 12th position at the moment. Nofel trying to keep up with Scalarity, but even if he keeps up with the driver directly ahead, the BMW that's in second has such a gap on him. There's no way that this Lexus can make anything happen. Unless Bilbo has a disconnect or a big accident that forces him to run around the entire circuit in really damaged state, I don't think there's any way this Lexus is going to be able to get back ahead of the LMP team's BMW. Running uphill. Again, there are 3 cars behind. Stewie, Obvious, Arkina, and Garrick is a lot farther back. Garrick cannot seem to come to grips with that Cadillac. It seems like only TNR is able to come to grips with the Cadillac. I think I've already said that. I'm at the point where my brain is starting to misfire because I've been doing the same bloody thing for so many hours. I apologize for that. But if my voice doesn't give out, my brain doesn't go completely crazy here, I'll stream for not quite 12 hours straight, but definitely closer to 11 hours than 9 hours. If you consider all the dead air time, waiting for stints to start, and also trying to get interviews as well. Bilbo is still keeping Nico honest. Nico is not running away from Bilbo like he wanted to. Third and fourth. Fourth and fifth haven't quite yet caught Richard, but Buffalo has gotten by Darkser, interestingly enough. I'm sorry that I missed that. My focus has been on other things. I apologize. And Kirby in seventh is going to be the first of our drivers to make a stop, so they're going to try and divide the stint into evens. Oh, Darkser lunges into one. Buffalo goes wide. Darkser is going to get the position. No! Buffalo has a better run in two. Darkser is going to try and set up in three. Can't make it stick. Buffalo holds on to fourth. The longer these two fight, the better it's going to be for Nico and Bilbo. Now, mind you, neither of these two, Buffalo or Darkser, are in serious contention for overall distance. Buffalo's teammate NFL Racer was not able to finish stint 2, and then Darkser also has had a stint not being able to finish due to one of his teammates as well. They're just in it for the glory of taking home a second stint win if they can do so. Still haven't caught Richard yet. Oh my goodness, Darkser way into the dirt there. Lost a huge chunk of time. This could be great news for Buffalo, though. This gives them a little bit of a gap so we can actually focus on Richard. Again, we know that it takes Buffalo several laps to properly make overtakes stick on the cars ahead, because this BMW is not straight line speed focused. You can't just hook up in the draft and go for it. It takes several laps to get right under the rear bumper of someone and make a move when it's open, especially on this slower, tighter technical circuit. Nothell's still running in 12th position right now. So Bilbo might lose this battle for stint win, but again, I think of everyone in C Lobby, he's going to win the war. AWR Richard still running in third. This could be a respectable run for the Bentley, probably the best run by the Bentley of any team that has not won a stint thus far. With how bad Nothell is performing, I think Richard might be able to overtake Nothell here. Other fights going on. Look at this. This is a mess if you've ever seen one. Nothell, Arkina, Obvious, all stacked up on top of each other. Here comes Obvious. Will easily make the overtake on the Acura. That's the other McLaren in Obvious, trying to set up against Nothell as Stevie has now scooted away just a bit. Credit to Vlack, despite going off earlier, as we covered in 6th. Don't think Vlack is in a position to bring home a win, but maybe a top 3 depending on how things go for the drivers ahead. Oh, that Lexus has gone off! And here comes Obvious to the outside. Can he make the overtake stick? No! Could not make it stick, but he's still side by side. Couldn't he out-accelerate the Lexus down to the following corner? Drag race, Obvious, Nothell. And it looks like the Lexus lunges, gets knocked sideways. Obvious goes off the dirt in the process. They're still side by side. Obvious has the position. Lexus tries to cross over, but leaves the inside open. Now here comes Arkina. Arkina does not want to be side by side with the Lexus in this corner. Amaryllis and Scalarity are going to pit farther up now. Buffalo's biggest strength has been able to stay out longer than anyone else. Could that be the method they use, is to get by Richard? It's a risky strategy to do, because if he stays behind Richard for too many laps, he's going to lose time. Tucked up behind the Bentley. Oh, Richard into the dirt. Buffalo had to get way offline to make sure it didn't hit him. Buffalo was in a long, prolonged 4-way fight for the win in stint 4, and it was strategy, staying out long, that got him that win. But he absolutely got up there on merit with lap times, just didn't make a whole lot of moves. A almost Alex Palou type drive. But Buffalo seems to be a little bit less patient now. He is most definitely putting Richard under pressure. I don't think he's going to lunge, but he he will get by Richard if Richard leaves a lane open for him in a way they can clearly move by. Our top three, Nico and Bilbo, are pitting now. Richard is pitting as well, but this is it. Buffalo's now going to stay out a few laps. I will almost guarantee you he will get by Richard just off the back of this. But how much of a gap can he open on Darkster? Well, Darkster's still out as well, so it's not going to be that much different. And then the other question, Nico and Bilbo, having pitted earlier, how much time could they end up losing to Buffalo's overcut here? Buffalo, the big advantage this IFEA machine has had, even when Navy has driven it, even when NFL has driven it, this car burns through tires more evenly than everyone else. Almost everyone is burning up through their fronts really fast. Now, Buffalo and everyone else in this IFEA BMW has burned through the front tires on a moderately quick pace, but not as fast as everyone else. Instead, they're trading off rear tire burn off in the process. Darkster on the same straight as Buffalo. Darkster went off huge earlier, lost a bunch of time to Buffalo. I don't know if Darkster is fast enough to run Buffalo down. Of course, the other question is, where is Buffalo going to end up compared to Nico and Bilbo once that duo pits? Rostad's currently in third. That's the other question. How long will Rostad stay out? This car led laps in the first 4 stints. Did not get a lead lap in stint 5, but he's led at least 1 lap in all the first 4 stints if Rostad stays out a little longer than Buffalo and Darkster and does not get overtaken by Nico. Rostad could end up bringing this car to lead laps in 5 of the 6 stints, which, while it wouldn't be a perfect sweep, would be pretty bloody respectable. Darkster is pitting out second now, so Darkster is not willing to push the car as far as Buffalo is. Rostad is going to go, so Rostad will not lead laps in this stint either. Okay, so this will put Nico up into second, we believe. Darkster is still in pit lane, still in his box, hasn't started moving yet. Now he starts moving. Mind you, Bilbo is still keeping up with Nico, is not really in position to pressure him, but he has kept up with Nico. If Nico has a big mistake, or even just a few small mistakes, it will go back in Bilbo's favor. He'll be right there to fight for his position again. But Buffalo still out front. He's the only driver to have not yet made his first stop, going much, much longer than everyone else. Did this earlier, trying to do it again. It got him a win in stint 4, trying to replicate that in the final stint. So Darkster is actually still behind Richard, and it's not by a small amount, it's by a significant amount as well, so Darkster still has to fight forward. Zeta has made his second stop now, so while Zeta is not a lap down yet, I think it's almost guaranteed that Zeta will go a lap down before this is over. Black has not totally lost touch with Darkster, but is not really closing on him yet either. That needs Darkster to have a big mistake if he wants to start pressuring him again. Nothel has now slipped down to 14th position. The Lexus continues to slowly just give up time as this event continues. Now Buffalo is in the pits. Where is Nico and Bilbo and Darkster going to end up in relation to Buffalo? I don't think Darkster is going to be able to close on. What about Richard? I'm almost positive Richard is going to be behind Buffalo, but by how much? He's right behind Buffalo. Could try and dive bomb bonsai him into turn 1. We'll see. All right, so first place is already past Buffalo. Second place is already past Buffalo. Here comes Richard out of the final corner. Buffalo is already out of his pit box. Again, the BMW doesn't have a great top speed, and Richard is actually by Buffalo. The overcut did not work. Buffalo did not gain against Richard on the overcut. In fact, it is Darkster who is actually closed in on the undercut. So the overcut worked for Buffalo in stint 4. It has not worked in stint 6. It was the undercut that worked better. Huh. Did not anticipate that. So Darkster now caught to Buffalo once again. This could be good news for Richard because if Buffalo and Darkster spend too much time fighting, again, Richard might be able to bring that Bentley into a podium finish. Out of the valley and now rushing uphill again. And again, I look at Nothel in 13th, trying to keep Arkina behind. Nothel is just not having a good run of this at all. Ooh, wow, the inside was open. Buffalo left the inside open for Darkster. Not. Oh, Darkster muscles it through. Buffalo gives him the inside, says, all right, fine, you can have it, but I'll get you on crossback, and that's exactly what it does. Because that was a big lunge from Darkster, but he could not turn the car in time. Buffalo gets back in the fort. But these two are legitimately fighting now. This is a serious fight. This is also great news for Richard. He really wants these two to just fight like this for the rest of the day. So Buffalo's overcut did not work here in the first half of the final, or the first third of the final stint. Will he try it again in stint 2? Well, not stint 2, but in the second and final pit stop of the day for the drivers in the C lobby. Buffalo's really struggling trying to keep Darkster behind. One advantage that Buffalo will have, though, his tires will be better than Darkster's for now. Will be better for a little bit, basically until they make their stop. And mind you, in stint 2, when Darkster won his stint, he went long on stint 1, but then shortened up stint 2. So he overcut stint 1, undercut stint 2. But Darkster has been a little bit more even Stevens on splitting the run up in his stint 3 run. So I'm curious how that's going to turn out. All right, Herrick has had an incident as Payne again, so it must be some sort of damage. So they'll lose 18th to Zeta. So the car that won the last stint, looking like they're a lock for potentially last place in today's event, might even be the first car to go a lap down. Not looking great for them. Nothel has now slipped back to 15th position as TNR Obvious is trying to make something happen to Arkina. Bilbo continues to keep Nico honest. Richard is still ranked kind of in no man's land between the fight for first and the fight for fourth. Not really a whole lot of other fights until you get to about 11th and 12th. That's Scalarity and Stevie. Scalarity just missed out on a top 10 in stint 5. And it looks like the Cavs positioned to be in that same position here in the final stint for C Lobby. Buffalo really did not have a good run in turn 1 that time. It's let Darkster get a run. Darkster is still there. Darkster is still there. He's going to lunge into 3. Buffalo tries to cut him off, slides the car, barely holds Darkster behind. That was a move. That was a move. I'm going to say it. I don't think these two can catch our top 2 drivers. Oh, and Darkster goes off again. I don't think Buffalo has what it takes to catch our top 2 drivers. They might be a little bit faster, but I think Nico and Bilbo have opened up a big enough gap early on that unless something happens, he's not going to have the time to run them down. Richard in 3rd is absolutely at risk from these two. But I think our top 2 is just going to be a fight between Nico and Bilbo for this win. It's all going to come down to if Nico makes mistakes and gives Bilbo an opportunity to get back by. Because it does seem like driver versus driver, Nico is faster, but Bilbo just doesn't make as many mistakes. Bilbo's a little more consistent. Nico is faster in a lap, but his mistakes are a little bit more costly. So this is the fight for 11th here. Stevie runs right behind Scalarity. Audi versus Porsche. Out of the final corner, down the front straight once again. Nothel all the way back to 15th. I think that's the last of everyone who's not had an incident in this event. So it's just it's not. I don't think Nothel took damage because Nothel continued to hemorrhage positions even after making their pit stop. It just seems like they are not confident or comfortable with that Lexus in the slightest. Scalarity a little wide in WR Stevie, just not really close enough to do anything. Right, what about 4th and 5th? Darkshire has scored Buffalo again. Eyes are trying to give out on me. I apologize for that. So is my brain and my voice, but I will be here to the end of this. I think we only have about 45 minutes left in this race. Looks like Richard is actually opening the gap up a little bit against Buffalo and Darkser. So Bentley might, big if, but might be able to pull off the podium here. Darkser still trapped behind, scored Buffalo. You can see Vlak is also slowly closing in on Darkser and scored, but I think he's only really closes when these two are fighting. But when the two of them are spread out a bit and just turning laps, he actually loses time against them. He's only faster when these two are fighting, so when Vlak finally catches these two, yes, we know the Acura is really good at accelerating through corners, but Darkser is really good at maximizing the accelerating ability of his Aston Martin as well, even with the nerf that it got. I don't know if Vlak's going to be able to get by either of them. Now, Darkser has been a little bit mistake-prone in this stint. Might be just exhausted, because not only has he been running, this is his 3rd stint, he's also been trying to do organizing as one of the head TORA mods as well. So he might just be a little bit mentally cooked and checked out. I know I'm feeling a little bit mentally cooked and trying my hardest not to check out. This is not... I was going to make a Hotel California joke, but I couldn't figure out how to make it work. I'm sorry. Uphill, Darkser runs right behind Buffalo. Small gap between the two. It just seems to slowly grow larger. As long as Ford is not under direct pressure from Darkser, Darkser can't do anything. Yes, Darkser has the better acceleration. I think he has better top speed as well. But Buffalo is just so much smoother in these corners, it's not mattering. And again, once more, Buffalo is starting to run down on Richard. Buffalo caught Richard before, and what he did is he stayed out longer. Richard pitted early and ended up working against Buffalo. Buffalo lost a huge amount of time to Richard and fell back into the clutches of Darkser in the process. So the overcut did not work early on. Could Buffalo try the overcut a second time, though? If Buffalo tries the overcut a second time, there will be one extra advantage. He can be significantly underfueled compared to everyone else, because he would only be running for maybe 15-20 minutes compared to everyone else going out for 20 to 25 minutes. A few extra percentage in fuel, take a little bit of weight out of the car, could help the car a little bit, especially in initial acceleration and maintaining momentum through the slower speed corners, of which most of this track is made up of. Nuke is going to pit with about 41 minutes left in the session, so I don't know if that is a strategy call or if he's taking damage or something. Keep an eye on that, but I have a bad feeling that that's not going to go well for Nuke. The one person that does help is Nothel in 340, that pushes him up to 14th. But overall distance, the gap between Bilbo and Nothel is absolutely ridiculous. There's about a half-lap gap between our 2nd place car and our 14th place car right now. So yeah, again, unless Bilbo has a big accident or a disconnect, there is no way that the Lexus will overtake the BMW in this final stint, and I think Bilbo, without a doubt, will help take the LMP team to overall distance victory compared to all of their C-Class counterparts. Despite only winning one stint, and that one stint was not something he went out there to dominate. He just kind of hung out in 2nd place for a good chunk of the race until the guy ahead dropped out. Again, you don't always win just by being the absolute fastest. Sometimes it's just being slow, silent, consistent, and being there when the opportunity opens. Right now, Bilbo has shown that better than anyone else. Not to mention, Bilbo is actually closing in and putting pressure on Nico again here in a little bit past the midway point of this event. Darkster's pretty much lost touch with Scored, and Scored is not really close enough to do anything to Richard. Here's this fight for 10th. between Scalarity and NWR Stevie. Scalarity fighting for a top 10 position. Would be the second top 10 that they've gotten thus far today, after the Porsche just had horrible runs in the first 3 stints. Recovered to a top 10 in stint 4, came home 11th, really close to 9th, but came home 11th in stint 5. Trying to fight for maybe another top 10 here to round out our 9 hours of Kylami. Well, that's not going to help. Scalarity goes into the dirt, leaves a huge chunk of time, and that brings Stevie right back up. And again, Scalarity is actually starting to pull on Stevie, but now with that big mistake, Stevie right there again. Black is not that far behind Black is not that far behind Darkster. Darkster is not that far behind Scored, and Scored is not that far behind Richard, but none of them are really in a position to fight for a position. Also, Kirby is running in 7th right now, but Kirby was the first driver to pit in the first stint. So Kirby is going to have to pay the piper when it comes to tire life sooner rather than later. So I fear that Kirby is going to end up losing time as this goes on, just for going so hard on the undercut early on. Undercut was very powerful in stint 1, but you have to pay the piper at some point. Meanwhile, at the front, Bilbo is keeping Nico honest. Hasn't lost the McLaren, but not really in a position to directly fight him. They're both about to come up on GTA Carrick, which is the Cadillac. Cadillac that had a second and a first in the prior 2 stints, but last here. So I imagine there's going to be some reorganization in that GTA team trying to figure out, okay, what drivers can actually perform in this car and what drivers cannot. Nothel has gotten back by Arkina, currently reigning in 13th position. Oh, and Bilbo's into the dirt, deep into the dirt. Won't lose too much time, but that will take a little bit of time away and should help Nico out a little bit. You don't see Bilbo make very many mistakes, but we definitely saw one there. Still the most active battle on the track right here. 10th and 11th, and not anymore. Stevie going off, and that will break that fight up. There's this. Arkina trying to get back by Nothel. And now Arkina does the exact same mistake that the other 2 following drivers who watched go through that did. Not as bad though, so it's not completely lost Nothel, but it does look like Nothel has an advantage for the moment. So Buffalo has caught Richard once again. Buffalo went for an overcut earlier. Oh, that ain't gonna help Buffalo. Into the dirt, and now here comes Darkster on the outside, and Darkster clears Buffalo on the run uphill. It's great news for Richard because they were just about to catch him. And now these 2 will have to fight each other a little bit more again. Buffalo does seem to be faster. He does have the ability to get by Darkster, but it takes him so many laps, and these 2 will spend a lot of time fighting with each other. So Richard in 3rd once more. Nose to tail, into the final corner. Buffalo is going to try to exit at maximum speed. Will stay in the draft of Darkster, going down the front straightaway here. That is Valak. You can see a little bit further back in the Acura. Credit to Richard. Richard is just slow, but I don't see Richard making a lot of mistakes. I don't think he's going to be able to come home in third, but if he does, it's going to be off the back of that, just minimizing mistakes. But we're going to go silent on board for a lap with Scored Buffalo as he tries to muscle his way by Darkser once again in the final stint. On board for one lap here around Kylami for the last time in the 9-hour event hosted by TORA. Well, you can very obviously see that even with the draft, Buffalo struggles to keep up with Darkster. Now, the draft does kind of kick in at the back third of the front straightaway, but it doesn't really make up for the fact that Darkster's acceleration just lets him leap away. And Buffalo's strength is in these corners! And there's a mistake by Darkster, but Buffalo could not capitalize, not that time. Also of note, lap traffic, Bilbo struggling to get by Carrick. Finally will get by, but this has opened the gap slightly between Bilbo and Nico at this stage of the event. Anyways, back to this fight for fourth. And you can see Vlack is closing back in on this duo again. Richard starting to open the gap again. And these two have a gap between them. They are the fastest two drivers on track, but time and time again, they're making these small mistakes that drag each other back into each other's clutches. And when fighting, they're so much slower than everyone else in the top six. Credit where credit is due, though. Both of them are showing some incredible mastery. They don't really go crazy in that high-speed, second-to-last corner, you know, that high-speed kink. So we're not seeing them go into the dirt as much through there. You know, the problem is they're just doing it more in other parts of the circuit, mainly the second, in the middle third of the circuit. I'm waiting to see who's going to start making their final stops. Buffalo went long on the first stint, ended up backfiring and hurting him badly. We'll try again on the second stint. We know Nuke's already made his second stop, but I think Nuke might have had damage or something. Oh, Darkster's into the dirt. Gonna bring Buffalo. No, but even with going into the dirt, Buffalo could not close as much as he wanted on Darkster. two masters of the craft here in two completely different cars, really struggling here to clear one or the other. It does look like here in this middle stint, Darkster has the advantage over Buffalo. Buffalo had the advantage over Darkster in the first fuel and tire run, but here in the middle one, it seems like Darkster has Buffalo's number. The big question, of course, Darkster is going to burn his tires off faster than Buffalo because Darkster pitted before Buffalo. Will that be enough to let Buffalo try and get back by the Aston here? That's a good run through that kink by Buffalo this time. Kirby is going to pit out 7, so this is the first one of everyone to make their first stop. They'll also be the first one to make the second stop, splitting the race into as even of thirds as possible. So we'll keep an eye on that. Because now everyone's kind of on notice that, hey, final pit stop's underway. And the undercut was pretty strong earlier. Although Kirby didn't really do a massive undercut, just pitted at a normal point of splitting the race in just about thirds. So, everyone else just seems to be overcutting. The question is just how far is everyone willing to overcut? Buffalo, by far the biggest overcutter, is going to try and do it again. That's the big question. Because if Buffalo does it again, can run maybe 5, 6, 7 laps with very, very low amounts of fuel. It would almost be like setting qualifying laps for him, especially if you can get in clean air while doing so. But still needs to get by Darkster somehow. And there's Richard, who is a little bit up the road that they have not really been able to close on. I shouldn't say they haven't. They kind of close on him, but then these two get side by side, and Richard just kind of opens the gap a little bit more. They were really close. Buffalo has gotten to Richard's rear bumper once before, nearly got to it a second time. First time was the pit stops and the overcut hurt Buffalo. The second time, Buffalo went off on his own and brought Darkster back ahead of him. Alright, so that is... Buffalo is so much better in that corner. Alright, X-Vlock in 6. Valak in 6 is going to make his stop now. No one in the top 5 has made their stop yet. Buffalo right behind Darkster again. He's going to try and make a dive into the braking zone. He's close enough. He's got the draft. Does he go for it? Darkster's not going to defend. Buffalo lunges. Buffalo gets the car ahead. He's nearly all the way ahead. Darkster is going to shoot really wide. Try and be side by side through turn 2. Gets the nose ahead just a little bit. Buffalo and Darkster make some door-to-door contact. Scored has the position. Will slide the car ahead of Buffalo. Of Darkster. Buffalo finally gets back by Darkster. Darkster's not done yet. Now he goes to the outside. Buffalo's going to make the door not close, but a little bit tight. Darkster has to back out in turn 4. Will try to get on his outside now, coming into 5. Buffalo has the lane of choice. Shuts the door on Darkster out of 5. Initial acceleration working out in Darkster's favor, but Buffalo with the position on track can keep the Aston behind a little bit. Doesn't have the greatest run at the hairpin at the top of the circuit, but Darkster can't really capitalize on a gap that's only 9 inches wide. Well, you can see Buffalo really opens the gap just a little bit, but he does absolutely do it in that corner. And now with no one behind him, I wonder if Buffalo can do the same in the kink again. Ooh! Stops tires in the dirt, does Buffalo. Keeps Darkster right behind him. This will be interesting because Buffalo is now ahead, but Darkster is in a car that is faster in a straight line, and he's going to have the draft. Will Darkster be able to try and lunge back for the position? Already the gap is starting to close. No, it's not. Darkster must have been a little bit slower out of the final corner than I thought. And Darkster is not in a position to lunge at Buffalo for the 4th spot. No one's making their stop. We saw Vlock make their stop. Kirby's already made their stop. Amarilla Scalarity has made their stop. But everyone else has not made their final stop yet. No, there we are. Nothel is finally making their stop. But yeah, a lot of people are really maximizing this overcut here. With 24 minutes to go, a lot of people still have yet to make their second stop of the stint and final stop of this Kylami Enduro. Scored Buffalo still holding station over Darkster, actually slowly opening the gap, and he is trying to close in on Richard. Mind you, Richard is just about to catch GGA Carrick and is going to have to figure out a way by that Cadillac and do it in a way that doesn't compromise himself in the process. Also, second place Bilbo is right there behind Nico again. But really, the real fight is fourth and fifth. Nico and Bilbo now into the pits. Once again, they are making their final stops now. Buffalo, I anticipate, is going to stay out a lot longer. What about Darkster? Is he also going to stay out a lot longer? What will Richard do? Richard's going to stay out. Buffalo will stay out. Darkster is going to pit to match the leaders. So Richard is going to lead laps again. 3 different drivers have led laps here. Well, 4 actually. No, 3, 4, whatever. But Richard is now the leader. Score does not have anyone behind him pressuring him. He's going to overcut again. X3 Art Nico ahead of LMP Bilbo. But the fight for the win has gotten a little bit tighter here. Bilbo was closing the gap back down in his favor between himself and Nico, as we are now in the final roughly 23 minutes of this run. Darkster has slipped behind Rostuds, but is not really in a position to be held up by Rostuds. I think Rostuds will probably pit in the next lap or 2, and Darkster will have a completely clean track ahead. The thing is, so does Buffalo right now. And so does Richard as well. If Buffalo catches Richard, can he overtake him? Twice before, he has caught Richard and has not been able to make the overtake stick yet. Richard and Buffalo both have yet to make their final stop. Mind you, 19th place is right behind the leader at the moment. So Richard shouldn't have to worry about this Cadillac. Richard shouldn't have to worry about this Cadillac. Buffalo will. This Cadillac is Buffalo's worst nightmare, and Richard's coming into the pits now. This will briefly put Carrick back onto the lead lap as of now. Now Carrick is back on the lead lap. So Scored Buffalo now in the lead, but trapped behind GGA Carrick. This car has been a pain for Buffalo to pass, but Carrick is not going to hold Buffalo up. He's just going to fall in line behind, so that makes things a little easier for Buffalo. Banging out some great laps. Where is Richard going to end up in relation to Darkster? Darkster coming out of the final corner now. Richard is already out of pit lane. Pit road speed limiter is off. Richard is accelerating. Darkster is closing, but it looks like for now the gap is in Richard's favor. It is Richard versus Darkster versus Scored Buffalo for the final podium position. Bilbo runs right behind Nico for the moment, putting Nico under pressure. The Stint 3, Bilbo won just by being in the right place at the right time. This time, though, Bilbo is starting to flex his muscles a bit. I think he knows that he is the fastest and is basically guaranteed to be ahead in overall distance compared to all of his rivals in this stint. But being able to win 2 stints overall would definitely really send a message home. Nico just holding on, wanting to take a car that had been midfield for most of the day, dragged it up into a third place finish in Stint 5, trying to take it to the top of the podium here in the final run. About 20 minutes left in the session right now. Ooh, Nico loses a bunch of time in the dirt there. Nico is showing weakness, and Bilbo is showing consistency. Rostuds is now pitting out of 4th, so he will not be a factor for Richard or Darkster. Also likely won't be a factor once Scored inevitably does pit, whenever that happens. Real quickly, we look at Scored Buffalo. I want to check his fuel. 4.3%, so this will likely be the lap that he pits on, I imagine. With about 20 minutes left, so I don't think he min-maxed this stint as much as he could have, but he is still the last person to make a stop. So the fight for the win right now is between these two. Bilbo has caught Nico. Well, he's in Nico's tire tracks, but is not in a position to make moves. But Nico is making a bunch of smaller mistakes. We know that Nico is faster than Bilbo on laps, but it seems like as this runs to the end, Nico might be getting a little tired, might be struggling a little bit. These two are basically even on tire life. They both pitted at the same time and for their first and second time. It's just going to be driver versus driver here. So this fight for the win is not over. The fight for third between Buffalo, Richard, and Darkster is not over either. Darkster has almost caught Richard. And there we are, Buffalo into the pits now. So this will go back to being the fight for the win outright. Buffalo just not in a position to really do anything to this duo. Oh, Bilbo, all sorts of sideways. Kenny Case, oh my goodness, he saved it. Oh my goodness, I can't believe he got that thing pointed straight by the time they got to the braking zone. It will give some advantage back to Nico and take a little bit of pressure off him, but Bilbo pushing a little hard, and now Bilbo has made a bit of a mistake. All right, where is Buffalo in relation to Richard and Darkster here? That is the big question. Buffalo coming out of pit lane. He's got a big advantage over Richard after spinning all those laps in clean air. Richard has a run. Can Richard get by Buffalo here? No, Buffalo's got it. The overcut did not work in Stint 1, but it will work in Stint 2. Well, Fuel Stint 1, but it will work in Fuel Stint 2, and Buffalo is in third. Now he's going to be nice, low on fuel, on really fresh tires, and can pound out some great laps. The only downside is that Buffalo just is too far away to do anything for the top two positions. But unless Buffalo makes a big mistake, I think he has got third on lock now. And the fight's going to be Richard trying to keep Darkster behind. And the fight for first and second, the fight for the overall win for this final stint is alive. Bilbo is running right behind Nico. We are basically guaranteed that this LMP entry, this BMW, is going to win overall across all of the C lobby cars. I don't know where they're going to come out against the A or B lobby cars. We are basically guaranteed they're going to be ahead overall of the C lobby cars, but he wants to go out on top here. They're about to catch traffic once again. And DGA Carrick is coming into the pit, so never mind that. Carrick is not going to factor in for these two. Bilbo has Nico has a better run coming out of the final corner and open the gap up. But that big mistake that Bilbo made earlier has already been mostly negated. Bilbo is absolutely fighting forward. Bilbo has not led the majority of this run. It has been Nico has led more laps than Bilbo. Bilbo has been there, constantly just watching Nico, trying to have this race come back to him, and it's starting to. Right now, he's just running in the tire tracks with about 16 minutes left. Can Bilbo make the move when it comes down to it, or is he just hoping that Nico makes mistakes? How aggressive is that number 825 entry going to be compared to the 690? Nothel has slipped to 15th. I think they're likely going to finish there. Nuke X1617 is in 12th, but I don't know if their tires or fuel are going to make it to the end. I could see them falling all the way back to 15th, maybe even 16th. I think 15th is a little more likely. Third, fourth, and fifth all on top of each other. In fact, Scored is not really pulled away from Richard. Richard is actually closing back down on Scored here. What in the devil is going on? Oh, if we run off the circuit like that, it's not going to happen, but still. Third, fourth, and fifth all kind of closing back in, but our real focus is on the lead because Bilbo is closing on Nico slowly and surely. This is a legit fight for the win. Nico is showing weakness. Bilbo, well, he has also shown a few mistakes. Is showing strength. Oh my goodness, Bilbo is all sorts of sideways again. Doesn't lose as much time this time compared to when he did 2 laps ago. And still runs right behind Nico. Nico's got that acceleration, but it kind of tops out early on, and then Bilbo uses the draft and starts closing the gap back down. I don't think he's close enough to make a dive here. But if Nico keeps showing weakness like this, I think Bilbo is going to get him. There's still 14, just a little under 15 minutes left. Nico, can he hold up under pressure, or is it going to go to Bilbo? Third, fourth, and fifth are all right on top of each other, and X Vlak and 6 is not that far off, but Vlak is on more worn tires. Also, on that same note, Kirby is 7th, well ahead of RZR Rostuds, but Rostuds will have better tires to the end. I think Kirby should be fine, though. I think Kirby should be able to come home 7th. 9th and 10th is ZR Amaryllis and Scalarity. NWR Stevie is a little bit behind them, and then Nuke X1617 is in 12th. But our focus is really on this fight at the front here. Last 15 minutes of 9 hours of Kylami. And although, well, I've said it so many times, I'm not going to bother saying it again, but we do have a fight to the end here for this Stint victory. Oh, Bilbo drops tires in the dirt. Doesn't lose too much time, though. Cuts the gap down to about 32 feet in the corner apex, but then starts opening up again. Nico's not really running defensively. He's just trying to hit his marks. He's dealing with the pressure from Bilbo okay for now. I just don't know if he'll be able to do it for those last 13 minutes. Bilbo really closes in into braking that time. Both cars are a little sideways coming out of turn 1. Looks like Nico had a better run out, though. Bilbo's just trying to make a lot of low-risk decisions, trying to keep the car off of curbs in areas that could be dangerous at. Look at this. Scalarity has moved his way up into 9th. Got Amaryllis behind him, got Stewie behind him. So this could get really interesting. Scalarity trying to go for a second top 10 result in the C lobby here. Even if Amaryllis gets by him, you need Stewie to get by him as well. Oh, here comes the move from Amaryllis. Can't make it stick. Although Scalarity does give him the inside, but the Mercedes slides around. Meanwhile, at the front, almost nose to tail, about a car length and a half between these two. In the first fuel and tire run, Nico had Bilbo's number. In the second, Bilbo had Nico's number. And in the third, it looks like Bilbo again has Nico's number. But catching him is one thing. Can he get by him? Nico didn't have too much trouble getting by Bilbo. But will that work the other way around? And if Bilbo gets by, is it going to be driver ability, or will Nico make a mistake to throw it away? With about 11 and a half minutes left, so I'm looking at maybe 5-6 laps, somewhere around there for this duo. Plenty of time for both parties to make mistakes. Bilbo's a little sideways there in turn 1. Again, these two are burning off their tires at roughly the same pace as they both... Oh, wow, both of them run into the dirt. Basically mash each other's tire tracks coming out of 3 there. Now into 4. Buffalo has pulled back away from Richard, and Richard is now trying to keep Darkster behind, so I think that fight for third is pretty much stabilized as long as Buffalo doesn't have another off moment. Prior stint winners in the running here, Bilbo second, scored third, Darkster fifth. And Bilbo trying to take almost second stint victory. This one would not be just inheriting it by being in the right position. This could be by being outright faster, smarter, and better than the car who was ahead of him. About 10 minutes left. Both cars dropped tires into the dirt that time. Bilbo did not have the greatest run in the final corner there. Nuke and Obvious are struggling for 12th position right now. Ooh, under the curves for Bilbo. That's not a great thing to have happen. Going to really kill his run out of turn 3. Nico starts opening the gap a little more once again. Farther back for 4th. Darkser has caught Richard. Can he get by him? Richard drops the tire into the dirt. Darkser almost does the same. Black is in 6th, but not really close enough to make anything of it. Buffalo has scooted away from this fight, so this is just a fight for merit. We know Richard on distance should be well ahead of Buffalo and Darkser. Well, the team that Richard's on will be well ahead of Buffalo and Darkser. I don't think this Bentley has had a podium finish all day long, but I think it might be the 3rd farthest distance of all the teams in C Lobby. I think, I could be wrong, but I think that's the way it's looking. Might end up being 2nd after how bad Nothel in 340 is melted down today. While he's not going to go a lap down, he is about 2/3 to 3/4 of a lap down right now, so it's not been a great day for Nothel 340. Darkser runs right behind Richard. Oh! Darkser, a huge close in. Looks to the inside, will not push the issue. Thinks better of it, doesn't want to turn the Bentley and wreck both of them here with less than 10 minutes left. This fight for 9th through 11th continues. Right now, it is Z Amarillo's trying to keep Scalarity behind, and then NWR Stevie is just a little bit behind that. There's also Kirby and Ross. Rostas is just getting by a lapped car. I apologize for that. Amarillo's 9th, Scalarity 10th. Does Scalarity make the dive? Here it comes! Porsche on Mercedes. Both of them are going to miss the ideal line. Stevie closes in just a little bit for now. Amaryllis has the position. Scalarity all sorts of sideways. I think Amaryllis is going to hold on to 9th, although Scalarity has a better run out of turn number 3. Has a big toe, big run. Is he going to look to the inside? He's trying. Scalarity might try to throw it up the inside here into 4. Side by side. Porsche versus Mercedes still. Amaryllis has a little bit better handling, gets by. And now Stewie on the outside of the Porsche. Can't make it stick. In 12th place is TNR Obvious trying to close in as well. TNR team's just not had a single good run today. We'd love to try and make this go well though. Amaryllis has the Porsche looking at the outside. Holy moly, that crossover, that switchback. But because it was so aggressive, Scalarity nearly misses the corner. And Amaryllis just didn't even really react. He just kind of held his normal line. Not really under stress. At least not that time. I'm sure in the car he's absolutely stressing right now. All right, for 4th. Richard still has Darkster behind. And X-Black is starting to close in. Black, I believe, is 4th in overall. Oh, Richard into the dirt. All sorts of sideways will bring Darkster in a little bit. Not close enough to get a move here, because Darkster didn't have a great run out of the corner. So Buffalo is absolutely scooted away pretty much without issue here. Excuse me. Keeps his position over Darkser, but Darkser is there. I think that Bentley might have a slight initial acceleration advantage compared to Darkser, which is rare because for most of the fights Darkser has had, he has been the one with the acceleration advantage. Big tire squeal from both of them there. That was not a great run by Richard through the corner. Cut very aggressively. He has a relatively good-ish straight line out of the final corner and can actually open the gap a bit between himself and Darkster in the process. At the front, Bilbo is starting to close back in on Nico, but with only about 2 minutes, 15 seconds left, there's not a lot of time left for Bilbo to try and get by him. So it has been a very, very strong performance by Bilbo again. Now, of note, though, that duo is about to catch Eclectic and Crazy. Those two are fighting for position. Now, I don't know if they're going to catch him before this stint is over, but there's a possibility that they will. 6 different teams could end up winning all 6 stints here. It all comes down to if Nico can stay ahead of Bilbo or not. I think there will also be 5 different manufacturers that would win as well in that case. No, it would be 4 different manufacturers, actually. Because stints 1, 3, and 4 were all won by BMWs. It's different BMWs. Darkster comes to the inside! No, there's no room. Richard holds him off. Darkster gets a little high center on the curb. Amaryllis, Stewie, and Scolarity has slipped out of the top 10 again. Getting these top 10 finishes is so hard for the Porsche. Now he's got TNR Obvious behind. While Stevie and Amaryllis are starting to stretch away just a little bit. Darkster is still trapped behind Richard. With about a little more than 2.5 minutes left, these guys are only going to get one more full lap and then part of another. Darkster is running out of time. He wants to get by Richard. He needs to do something big and needs to do something fast. No attempt to move this time. Buffalo's dropped a little bit of time to these two, but not really in a position to be caught by them. So as long as Buffalo doesn't have like a big instant, like he just completely destroys his engine, third seems almost guaranteed, all but guaranteed for him. Less than 2 minutes left, and the leaders are so close to catching traffic. No! No! Nico! Something has happened to Nico! And Bilbo is through! What's happened? Nico may have gone off circuit, or has Nico damaged the car? I don't know. No damage. So whatever happened must have been self-inflicted by Bilbo as he was coming up to lap traffic. And with 1 minute and 30 seconds left, this is it. Bilbo is going to, again, despite not being the fastest, again, just walk backwards into another stint win. Frustrating. Aggravating. We were so close to having 6 different winners. Curses. That takes the wind out of the sails. Oh, whatever. Richard and Darkster still continuing their fight for 4th and 5th. Darkster is really close. Does he make the lunge on Richard here? No, he's not. He just does not seem to be. He's obviously pushing, but I don't think he seems terribly plus. I think he might be content with coming on 5th, knowing that there's not really anything he can do. Even if he gets by Richard, it's not really going to help with his overall distance. Buffalo is well ahead of him, and Darkster is just not in a position to really close in compared to the other people. All right, final 14 seconds as we take a look at Bilbo here. Coming out of the hairpin at the top of the hill, now downhill once again, 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1, time is up. And Bilbo will win a 2nd stint. Both of them off the back of other drivers' misfortunes. 2nd place will go to Extreme Art Nico, so close to a win, but circumstances dictated otherwise. I don't know if it was because he caught traffic and the traffic ran him off circuit, or if it was because of a self-inflicted error, but whatever it was, did not work out. Scored Buffalo again. rebounds from about a 10th place to come home third. Fourth place, AWR Richard, not a third that he was on track for a good chunk of this race, but will be fourth. Darkster just did not have the performance we were expecting. Not a bad run by him, but just not the performance we were expecting. Will be fifth for him. X Vlak was mostly invisible most of the day, but will come home in sixth. Seventh will be Mr. Kirby, pretty handily. I think this isn't the best run, but this will be the second best run by this entry, but I think with all the bad runs they had early on, I think the only team they're going to end up ahead of will be the TNR team. RZR Ross Studs is going to bring that BMW home in 8th. In this stint, ZR Amaryllis is going to get 9th in the end. CV will get 10th in the Audi, and TNR Obvious gets 11th. I'm 90% sure that is the best result for this TNR entry this entire run here. It's just been a nightmare run for that team. Scalarity, 12th, gets knocked out of another potential Scalarity gets knocked out of another potential top 10, just not able to keep up in the closing minutes. 12th will be P1 Arkina. 13th will be Arkina. 14th will be Nuke, so did not lose as many positions as thought. Nothel will be 15th, and that coupled with Bilbo's victory means that absolutely Bilbo's team will win against all the other teams for overall distance just among the C lobby. I don't know where they're going to stack up against A or B lobby. Zeta is going to be 16th overall. C1 Crazy is going to be 17th overall, just barely stay on the lead lap. Same with Electric. That comes home in 18th overall. 19th will be GGR Carrick. Really, really dramatic difference. Second, first, 19th. Also, all 19 drivers do finish the final stint here, and 18 of the 19 finish on the lead lap in the final stint, so great job on that part. But that is that. We will wait to be sure that we've gotten all... Why is this camera moving about so much? It is giving me... It is going to make me dizzy. I don't like it. There we are. That is your Stint 3 and Stint 6 winner. Both of them off the back of someone else's misfortune. And overall, the LMP BMW entry goes farther than anyone else, any other team amongst the C lobby entrants. Not seen Bilbo move yet. Typically, once the leader moves, we know that they're just about done with calculating and collecting distances for everyone. Is standing by, waiting right now for us to know that distances have been collected so we can get interviews in here. All right, there we are. Some movement from Bilbo. We'll move up to the next mile marker or to the end of the lap, whichever one comes first. Oh God, I don't like this camera angle. We'll go to the next mile marker. Your in-game mile marker, that is. All right, and there we are. Bilbo comes to a stop now. All right, so now we'll go ahead and start reaching out to our podium finishers. Well, I'm going to wait like 3 minutes, and then I'll reach out to our podium finishers. But yeah, this will pretty much wrap it up now. Okay, gonna try and reach out now to our podium finishers. Scored Buffalo came in third. X3 Nico would have come in second, and then it would be Bilbo who had the top spot. So we know that Bilbo will have that team will have the overall distance. All right, Bilbo dropped out. A lot of drivers are dropping out now. So I'm guessing that they've got word that everything is done. I'm going to try and reach out one more time to our podium finishers here. Just want to see if I can talk with them at all. Recently played with. Don't know if any of them will actually be able to join the party or not. Should be able to, but we'll see. A lot of these people are just happy that this mess is over. All right, here we are. We finally gained some of our podium finishers coming in to the party. X3 Nico, go ahead, include your audio. Dominated this final stint, but in the last 3 minutes, it slipped away. What happened out there? All right, outstanding drive here, mate. I'm glad you were able to show that off. It's a shame you weren't able to win, but that was a fantastic drive. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us. And after this crazy race, I hope you're able to go and get some good sleep after this. All right. I try. Thanks, mate. You as well. All right, I want to go ahead and talk with our third place finisher, Scored Buffalo. Scored of the 3 stints you finished, you got a 4th place finish, a victory, and a 3rd. What do you have to say about not just this stint today, but your runs overall in the Kylami Enduro?
I'd say they went fairly well. It's just really unfortunate that I got the engine damage in the first stint, and then in this stint, I just really had a bad time with the understeer at that one corner. Just kept going into the gravel trap. But besides those things, I think it went pretty well. Nothing was really wrong with the car that I was struggling with, and whenever I actually got free air, I could compete for the top, or I was kind of pacing the top guys, but having to fight my way from the bottom, it just kind of gave them that gap for the first and this stint. So with that, I'm fairly happy with it.
All right, well, you actually absolutely dug your team out of a hole. Obviously, you're not going to be at the top. We're almost guaranteed that of all the C-class teams, Bilbo has gone farther distance than the rest of you. But still, an absolutely outstanding job coming back from a 12th place finish in Stint 1 and a DNF in Stint 2. Great job out there, mate. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Any other final things you want to say before we wrap this up? I'm guessing we just aren't going to be able to talk with Bilbo. I have sent invites out several times to him, and it is just he's not come through. So I think it's just going to be, if you have anything else to say, go ahead and lay it on us.
I just want to say thank you for streaming, and thank the tour staff for holding this event. It was actually pretty fun, despite a few little issues, but nevertheless, I've always enjoyed doing these enduros. So, and this was another fun one. I really enjoyed all my battles up there. So, thank you.
All right. Well, with that in mind, I'll pretty much wrap up our broadcast here for the 9 hours of Kylami. I think all the other lobbies are done or just about done as well. For those of us who want more racing, though, IESC will be back next week, as they will go on a tear of, I believe, 2 straight weeks of actual racing. Then they'll have a Thanksgiving break, and then we'll be running again until Christmas. So next week, IESC will be back on Saturdays. We'll be back to just doing a single, roughly 90-minute race instead of a bunch of 90-minute stints. As well, I'll probably go back and see about trying to finish up the Resident Evil 2 streams as well. But until next time, I have been your host, Insane13. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to the TORA staff for having me on. And until next time, farewell and goodbye.